Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivaraja Kacharya Ashatarasata Shishimad Divine Grace The Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivaraja Kacharya Ashatarasata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Nanta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Brihad Mridanga Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Jainitai Gaur Premanandi Hari 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 Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Lord Sri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padaya Putin Shrimati Shri Ram Swami Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Śrimad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, chapter 20, verse 36 to 37. Just open it up here. Okay. Naik, can I have a glass of water? Sorry, got a bit of a sore throat. Yeah, I'll be fine. I'm just recovering from a cold, so yeah. Yeah, thank you. Nekatra te jayati shalini padma padmam Naikatrate jayati shalini padma padmam. Gnenantya muhukara talena patat patagam. Gnenatya muhukara talena patat patangam. Madhyam vishidhati brihatstana bharabhitam. Madhyam vishidhati brihatstana bharabhitam. Santeva drishtir amala shushika samuha. Shanteva drishtir amala shushika samuha. Nekatra te jayati shalini padma padmam. Gnenantya muhukara talena patat patangam. Madhyam vishidhati brihatstana bharabhitam. Santeva drishtir amala shushika samuha. Bruce. Muhu kartalena patat patangam. Devas drishtir amala sushika samuha. Naikatrate jayati shalini padma padmam. Gnenantya muhu karatalena patat patangam. Madhyam vishidhati brihastana bharabedam. Santeva drishtir amala shushika samuha. Matajis. Nekatra te jaiti shalini padma padmam. Gnenantya muhu karatalena patat patangam. Madhyam vishidhati bharat bhavitam. Santeva drishtir amala shushika samuha. Nekatra te jaiti shalini padma padmam. Gnenantya muhukar talenam patat patangam. Madhyam vishidhati brihatstanas parabhitam. Santeva drishtir amala shushika samuha. Okay. Na. Not. Ekatra. In. Te. Your. Jayati. Stay. Shalini. O beautiful woman. Pada. Lotus feet. Gnenantya. Striking. Muhu. Again and again. Kara talena. By the palm of the hand. Patat. Bouncing. Patangam. The bull. Madhyam. Waist. Vishidati. Gets fatigued. Brihat. Full grown. Stan. Of your breasts. Bhara. By the weight. Bhitam. oppressed. Shanta eva, as if fatigued. Drishti, vision. Amala, clear. Su, beautiful. Shika, your hair. Samuhaha, bunch. Translation. O beautiful woman, when you strike the bouncing ball against the ground with your hands again and again, your lotus feet do not stay in one place. Oppressed by the weight of your full-grown breasts, your waist becomes fatigued and your clear vision grows dull, as it were. Pray, braid your comely hair. The demons observed beautiful gestures in the woman's every step. Here, they praise her full-grown breasts, her scattered hair, and her movements in stepping forward and backwards while playing with the ball in every step. They enjoyed her womanly beauty, and while they enjoy her beauty, their minds become agitated by sex desire. As moths at night surround a fire and are killed, so the demons become victims of the movements of the ball-like breasts of a beautiful woman. The scattered hair of a beautiful woman also afflicts the heart of a lusty demon. So we'll just read verse 37 as well. You don't need to pronounce it. Iti sayantam sandhyam asura pramadayatam pralobhayantam jagrur matva mudha diya striyam. The Asuras, clouded in their understanding, took the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman showing herself in her alluring form, and they seized her. Purport: the Asuras are described here as mudha diya, meaning that they are captivated by ignorance, just like the ass. The demons were captivated by the false, glaring beauty of the material form, and thus they embraced her. Om Gyantimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Just wanted to comment on something. We read a lot in Prabhupada's books, in the Bhagavatam, in the Puranas, this mention of Asuras and Rakshasas, and sometimes they're used interchangeably. And in Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna, he talks about the divine and demoniac. He talks about them in terms of mentality and disposition. But technically, an Asura is also a divine being, and they come from the lower planetary systems. And they are always challenging the supremacy of the demigods. And a Rakshasa or Rakshasi are generally people from planet Earth who have developed some sort of siddhis and powers. They're generally cannibals. You can see, apparently, there's some places in India you can go, you can see these people. They go to graveyards and they do some sort of tantric things, and they develop powers and they engage in this type of stuff. So there's like a slight technical difference. Sometimes you can use them. So for instance, Putana, the witch who Krishna killed, because he killed quite a few demons. Technically, she's not an Asura. She is a Rakshasi. She's a witch who gained mystic powers. Even Trinivarta, the whirlwind demon, he wasn't an Asura. But Prabhupada explains, the Acharyas and Prabhupada call them Asuras because it's the mentality. What is the mentality of an Asura? Is to enjoy material nature, is to take things for one's own sense gratification. And what is the mentality of a Sura? A Sura is someone who's godly, who uses something in Krishna's service. So generally, you can be an asura. There's also different. There's daityas. Prahlad Maharaj was a daitya, and there's Danavas, and so we have to look at the context and the meaning. But generally, when Prabhupada explains it in terms of mentality. So, you can also be a Rakshasa, but you can also have a saintly mentality. Like we have Ravana, we know he was a Rakshas. He was also Rakshas and he was also a Sura at the same time. And, generally, and we understand that, he had an Asura mentality. But his brother, I forgot the name, was a devotee of Lord Ram. I think it was Vibhishan, I'm not sure, Vibhishan, yeah. Yeah, so he was a devotee of Lord Ram. And, he was fully surrendered. He didn't agree with Ravana's mentality. So it's not dependent on the body, it's dependent on the mentality. And, there were many great Asuras. Bali Maharaj, he had taken over Indra's kingdom, and, he wanted to give charity. And, Vamnadev came to, whatever you want, you can take. He said, I'll just take 3 steps. And with those 3 steps, he took over the entire universe and gave it back to the demigods. But it's just so, its mentality is what is more important. And we see many great personalities who weren't born in, human bodies. And, just like adding further to that, like if you read Ramayana, there's a term that keeps coming up a lot, it's Arya, or Aryan. And, we sometimes think Aryan refers to people from, human beings that come from India. But actually, it's people who follow Vedic culture. And we see that Lord Ram, he called even Hanuman, who was a Vanara, who's a type of monkey, an Arya. Why? Because he was a cultured, sophisticated, learned follower of the Vedas. So it's to do with mentality and disposition, your activities. It's not to do with your body. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that it's, you are defined by the work you do and the mentality you have, that determines your varnashram. So anyway, this is, I just wanted to discuss that. Because we use it interchangeably, so, sometimes we, but, even when we call someone a Shudra, there's nothing wrong, actually, sometimes we call people, like Prabhupada would say, you're a Shudra. And he's sometimes using a derogatory way, but actually, Shudra, if you think about it, is a very sophisticated person. And so I heard someone explain and said that a good example of a Shudra is a butler. Now, if you've ever seen, films where they depict English butlers, they're very sophisticated, they're very intelligent, they know how to manage the house. They're not these unintelligent, wild people. They're very sophisticated, very classy. They know how to serve the master. So, there's context, and we should look at that. So, like we just read about this, the demons, they're attracted to this illusory twilight form, which Lord Brahma had discarded, and the asuras or the demons were attracted to it. And there's mention in scripture about bodily parts, especially of women, of breasts, and it's interesting, because they wanted to enjoy this form for the sense gratification. If you go to India, most of you have probably been, you'll see certain temples where they depict apsaras, damsels from heaven, and queens, and sometimes you can see statues where their breasts are exposed. I was hearing some scholars and some pundits, they were talking about this. It's that breasts weren't objectified, they weren't sexualized, they weren't seen as a sexual thing. People went crazy about these things. A real beauty of a woman, especially, was actually in her eyes, in her hair, in her character, in her chastity, and her devotion to following dharmic principles. That was the real beauty. That was what people were really attracted to. It wasn't breasts. It's and actually, if you study, it's not that women didn't cover themselves. They did cover themselves, but generally they didn't wear the blouse or the choli. It's actually the British introduced that in India when they came. Because women generally used to wear like a sari. You sometimes see tribal women in India, they just wear sari, like cloth, just covering their top half. That's how they used to dress, especially the queens, or they would wear jewelry. It wasn't like this sexualized thing. Now, everyone thinks, oh, it's a sexual thing, but it's not. It wasn't like that. So, like, I remember growing up when I was a kid, I used to go to the park, and you'd see a woman breastfeeding a child. You wouldn't think anything of it, because you think it's just it's a woman just feeding her child. That's what it was. It was just glands, and somehow society has made it into the sexual thing. Like, I was hearing from one person that sometimes people find people's feet, a sexual thing. So it's like, whatever's in fashion, it becomes like a thing that's in vogue. You find it like a sexual thing. So it's like kind of like a crazy thing, which Maya is basically force making us fall into. So we shouldn't think we shouldn't be caught up in this. In England when I was growing up, there wasn't this huge fascination about trainers and clothes. Now, since I've come here, I see everyone wearing like expensive Nike sneakers. Like, they could be from a poor community and they're paying like $200 or $300. And I'm like, I don't ever remember spending more than $50 as a child, Like, I didn't really have that fascination. But because when something's in fashion, everyone just goes along. You do like blind sheep. You just follow, you follow the blind following the blind. Because it's in fashion, it's in vogue. If anything is, if a celebrity was to wear a skirt, a guy, then, and someone said, oh, he looks really smart, he looks very liberal and progressive, people would start following, because they don't have the capacity to think that this is not proper. They just want to follow each other. So this is what mature world is. It's people following each other, blind following the blind, and chewing the chewed. So there's no real taste in it. There's no real pleasure from it. It doesn't lead to God consciousness. True culture should lead to God consciousness. Everything you do, the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the way we associate, the way we see each other, the way we go about our lives should lead to God consciousness. It shouldn't be a man-made thing where, someone does something and we just follow. That doesn't lead to anything. So, when going back to Asuras, it's, Asuras are they're very much involved in ignorance, and they are, deeply illusioned. They associate heavily with Tamagun and Rajagun. But it's very interesting, even with Asuras, if you read the Bhāgavatam, and the Puranas, they're not like these crazy, wild people, hedonistic people that are generally depicted. A lot of them are very cultured. A lot of them are very sophisticated, and they know the Vedas. It's not like they're just like these wild, savage people. You see them, that depict them in, they wear ornaments, they dress in, in Vedic attire. It's not that they're not like Rakshasas. Rakshasas are generally depicted in a way that they're not very cultured and sophisticated. So this mentality of divine and demoniac, it's not created by God. It's like, sometimes people, why was demons created? Why are there asuras? Krishna creates the body, but the mentality is not coming from God. It's coming from the jivas whose mentality to enjoy material nature accumulates, and hence they become predominant in a certain species. It's not like, God, I'm going to create someone with this bad intention and someone with good intention. It's not like that. It's coming from us. It's coming from the jiva. So God is just, He's just creating the physical body. He doesn't create the mentality. And, Krishna says, whatever, Shishirada Govindaji ki jai. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that, whatever you think of at the time of death, you will carry that consciousness into your next body. So there's no creation of consciousness or mentality of the body. That's coming from the jiva, and God doesn't intervene in that. Sometimes we read in the Puranas, we talk about a lot how, because there's 8 different types of marriages, and one of them is where you can kidnap a princess if you're a king or a prince, and you can take her as your wife. I mean, I forgot. I think it's called, yeah. So it's like obviously that's not allowed in today's age. I mean, it's still followed in certain parts of the world. It's not that these people are demons. It's like, are you a demon if you if you like a woman or a woman likes a man? No, it depends on why are you doing it? If you're looking to get married, if you're looking to have God-conscious children, that doesn't make you a demon. What makes you a demon is that you just want to enjoy someone just for your own sense gratification. Because the purpose of marriage is to have God-conscious children. What does putra mean? Does anyone know? One who delivers his father. That's the whole point of it. And you're meant to be able to deliver your child as well. If you cannot do that, then there's no point in having children. That's the purpose of marriage. Otherwise, you don't get married, because marriage is a serious thing. You're looking after your wife. It's a serious business. You're looking after your wife, you're looking after your children, and then, then you're going to have grandchildren. So that's the whole purpose of marriage. Marriage, and, there's a whole samskara. There's a whole samskara for it. And even sex within marriage, there's a samskara for that as well. It's called Garbhadan samskara. And, Krishna says, I'm sex life not contrary to religious principles. It's not a demonic thing. To feel attraction is not a bad thing, because if Krishna pervades everything. Krishna is beauty. So obviously you're attracted to different things. Like, some people are attracted to the color yellow. Why are you attracted to color yellow? Not that I'm attracted to color yellow, but it's because Krishna is within that. Krishna, anything you see that's beautiful in creation is Krishna. Like Prabhupada says, when the flower blooms, it's like Krishna smiling. We're attracted to when the flower blooms. It's because Krishna is within that. So it's not Maya. Like, it's not Maya to, enjoy prasadam. Like sometimes people say, you shouldn't enjoy your prasadam. But no, Krishna's within that. It's offered. Why you're allowed to enjoy it? Because you're tasting Krishna's saliva within it. Or being happy in marriage, for example. I've heard people say, it's Maya. No, that's a crazy idea. The whole purpose of marriage is, to have a situation where you support each other. You can be happy and support each other and going back to Godhead. So if your purpose is to enjoy, for your own purpose, then that's Maya. But if you're doing it for, you're allowed to enjoy yourself. Even sex can be enjoyed if you're doing it according to religious principles. It's not that, it's enjoying something is not bad. It depends on your intention and your consciousness. So the Asuras, the mentality is just to gratify your senses, and if you think about it, lust, anger, greed, we know that's the 3 gateways to hell. You can't satisfy them. And lust, how much sex can you have, It's like a human being does not have as much sex as the rabbit or some other species. We're limited. It's just a different flavor going through the species. And after a while, you think, okay, this is it. I don't want to do it anymore. The taste is gone. And then when the lust builds up, you do it again. But you can never satisfy you because it's not designed to satisfy. That's not the purpose of it. It's just like someone, like we hear of rich people who have so much money, but they're greedy to accumulate more money. They can't be satisfied with what they have, because that's the nature of these things. When you're trying to get something that's separate from God, separate from Krishna, you will never be satisfied. Because it's not designed, material world is not designed to satisfy you. It's just a tool for you to engage in Krishna service, so you can go back to God. That's the whole purpose of it. That's the purpose of this body. We're not here to enjoy. It's like it says in the, it's explained that the jivas are swimming in this whirlwind of the material nature, and we're meant to cross that water with the help of the spiritual master on a boat, so we can go back to Godhead. So you just need to. It's like it's like if you look at billboards, if you look at advertising, sex is used to promote everything. Like I remember I was in Oxford Street in London last year, no, 2 years ago, before I moved here, And there's a shop called Selfridges, which is like, your Macy's there. It's a pretty prestigious place to go. And I remember there was these two guy models, and they were advertising a product, but they were being kind of like they were half naked, and they were like kind of, they weren't touching each other, but they were acting like sexually suggestive. They were, about to do that, and everyone was like clapping and appreciating it, and I was thinking, you're just advertising a product. Why do you need to do that? Why not give information about the product? Why do you have to have two guys, engaging in suggestive sexual behavior? And the thing is, without sex, nothing sells. So, like people think, if it's like, there was this advert many years ago I watched, you don't have it here, I think it's called Axe, in UK it's called Lynx. Like this guy, he's like this average guy, no one really likes him, he can't attract the opposite sex, he puts on this deodorant. And then suddenly these angels start falling from the heaven, and their wings come off, and they start chasing this guy, And so the idea was that if you put on this deodorant, you're going to be attracted to the opposite sex. Obviously it's not like that, but it's just they need that to promote it. They don't talk about, okay, you have to put so much effort in, you have to, court this person, you have to buy her gifts, you have to remember all these, Valentine's Day, birthdays and all that. They don't talk about that. But they have to get that thing to hook them in, And, actually, if you think about it, animals are much more simpler than us. They don't do all this advertising stuff. For them, it's like, it's mating season. They may challenge a rival male, and the female will accept. The animals are much more simpler. They're much more, I would say, in one sense, they're more civilized than us, But they also have sex desire. But they don't come out with all these concoctions, these weird, varied things we see in the material world. They have it very simple. And, so but sex, the lust affects everyone. We hear of the black widow, spider. If you're from Australia, it's very common to see it in your garden, especially in Sydney, Brisbane. I've had devotees telling me there that they've seen it in their garden. If it bites you, it'll kill you. And they were saying that the female's black widow, is bigger than the male. And what happens is the male does some sort of dance, spider, and then it impresses the female, and then after they mate. Then after that, the black widow eats the male. And that's sex. That's sex for the male. I've done this amazing dance, probably. Then I mate, and then the goal of that is to be eaten. What's the point? And this is material life. Like in Maharaja Yati, he talks about in the Bhāgavatam, even a goat talks about how goats are attracted to each other. And it's just mundane. It's rubbish. Like I knew this guy. Because when I grew up in London, and I remember I used to go to all these Asian raves and stuff. There was this guy I knew. He was like, you could say he was kind of like what you call a Casanova type of guy, and he had like many girlfriends. And he would talk about his exploits, and everyone would say, and he's the guy, he's the main person. He's so cool. But you see this guy now, he's not married, he can't have a normal relationship with a person because he's always objectified women. He's always seen them as objects of desire. He wants to get married, but because he's brainwashed himself into thinking like that, he can't function normally, and he's unhappy. His life, and he's not very steady in his job. All his siblings are married, and he's like a junkie, because he thought that was the source of his happiness. So that's why, like any society, you can see any society that doesn't respect women, they don't last. You look at even in the Greek myths, the story of Troy, where Paris, he kidnaps Helen of Troy, and her husband and his people come and they fight the Trojan War. We look at Mahabharata, when Draupadi was brought into the assembly and Dushashan tried to strip her naked. What happened? The whole the Kauravas were destroyed. And I remember there was this famous case in England where there was this football manager, and he insulted in front of tens of thousands of people the medical doctor, who was a woman, and she was doing her job to look after the player. And this manager was doing really well up to that point. After that point, he got sacked. His team started getting bad results. The team turned against him, and he got sacked. So, we see Ravana, he kidnapped Sita Devi. And, Ravana, actually, before that, he'd been cursed because he raped, I believe it was actually his relative's daughter in the heavenly planets. And he was condemned, that if he does, he'll be destroyed. So any society that doesn't respect women, you won't survive. And that's because they're meant to be protected. Women are meant to be protected, children and brahmanas. So, and if you have a mentality where you want to enjoy people, even it's not that just men are lusty. Women can be lusty as well. It's just if you see, material nature will come down on you like a ton of bricks. It will destroy you. It may not be now, but it will happen. And we don't see anyone who engages in material pleasure, just seeking it. They're never happy. Whether it's accumulating money, whether it's having sex, whether it's whatever. If it's purely for sense gratification, you cannot be happy because the soul doesn't want sense gratification. The soul wants Krishna. Only Krishna can make you happy. So, this is the thing. So it's the mentality that decides what you are. And if your mentality is not godly, you will suffer. We know the story of Diti and Kashyap Muni. And Diti had many sisters who had already had children with Kashyap Muni. I can't remember the numbers. I think it was about 13 or 14, maybe more. And Diti didn't have any children, and she approached Kashyap Muni. And Kashyap Muni, and during twilight, she was ovulating, she wanted to have children, and she was also affected by lust. She approached Kashyap Muni and said, I really want to engage. I really want to have children, I really want to have sex. And Kashyap Muni said, look, right now I'm doing religious activities. I don't want to do this now. Let's do it later, because this is not the auspicious time. Diti knew that. She was the daughter of a great personality, but because of the circumstances, they engaged in it. And as soon as they did that activity, Diti was ashamed, and she knew what she did was wrong. And what was the result of that union? It was two twin children. Who were they? Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. And Kashyap Muni said, these children will be the cause of chaos in the universe. And they did that. Hiranyaksha threw the earth in the Garbhodak ocean. And Hiranyakashipu, he took over heaven and he persecuted Prahlad Maharaj. So nothing can good ever come from this, therefore there's, there's astrological, you have to, consult astrological times, you have to do some samskaras to make sure the child you conceive, it's a very lengthy, serious thing. Is born with the right qualities, the right consciousness to become a dharmic and Krishna conscious person. I was listening to one class by one devotee, and he was saying he grew up in Hyderabad in India, and he was saying as a child, his mum said you have to be home before twilight, because twilight was a very inauspicious time. So, that's why during twilight, twilight time is a time where you're meant to engage in more spiritual activities. That's why we have the Sandhya, we have Arti at that time. It's so it protects us from the negative influence of that time. There's 24 hours in the day, and there's different times for devas, there's different times for asuras. Krishna gives everyone equal opportunity. So we have to be very conscious of that. Even Prabhupada would do things at certain times. You don't travel on Ekadashi. You look at certain astrological time and periods to do things. But so it's very important. We're kind of like as devotees, we're analyzing our intention, analyzing our motivation. Because self-realization also means to know your conditioned nature. It's not self-realization doesn't mean going back to Godhead. No, it means knowing this is my nartas, this is how I need to fix it. I was saying to one devotee when I was in England, I said, because he has a problem. He does certain things and he gets into problems a lot with other devotees, so he doesn't get on with them. And I said to him, have you ever thought about how you come across and how you speak to people? And he said, no, there's nothing wrong with me. What's wrong with me? I've got loads of friends outside Krishna consciousness. I said, well, are they really your good friends? Are they people you can rely on? And so when we got done, they weren't really his good friends. They were just people who would indulge his bad behavior. So, I said to him, you need to be a bit more aware of what you're saying, how you're coming across, what you're doing. And, you should understand, devotees are not, these are people you're meant to worship and respect. you should come across as a servant. We should see ourselves as servant of devotees. We shouldn't see them like, someone's junior, I'm going to treat him as an inferior. No, everyone's a devotee. They're worshipful. So if we see them as something to be enjoyed, then we're not going to be happy, and we will get reaction for that, and we won't make progress. So, Krishna gives great instruction in Bhagavad Gita, defining and talking about the divine and demoniac. So mentality is very important, and like this idea about the human body being parts of it being attractive and all that. I mean, if anyone's in medicine, like my friend was telling me about, he's a doctor, and when you're training, you have to dissect dead bodies, and he said it's not a very pretty thing. It's when you see what's inside the body, it's just full of pus, stool, urine, blood, and that's what gives shape. There's nothing attractive about it. It's revolting, So there's nothing attractive about the body. The only time it becomes attractive is when you decorate it with tilak, with Vaishnava clothing, and you act like a devotee. That's the only thing. That's what makes it attractive. Anyway, I'll stop here. If anyone would like to make a comment or ask a question. Hi, Mataji.
Thank you for next class. I was just thinking what you said in the beginning, that it's okay to have a desires, it's okay to, wish for things. You just have to kind of know our motivation why we want something, and if you want something, to serve and, to help other person, then it's alright. But if you want it for our self-gratification, then it's not alright. This is considered to be demoniac.
Yeah.
Mentality. So I feel like in real life it's not always black and white. How can I understand whether I desire something for my sense enjoyment, or it just cover it by something like, I want it for service. How do I know what's true in here? Because it's easy to see it in someone else.
Yeah.
If someone tells you like this desire, and you ask them why you want it, then okay, this is for your sense enjoyment, but in myself, it's hard to see. How do you know? What was the identification of?
Yeah, I mean, it's like something I do every day. Like to be able to, like if you can't get it from Vaishnavas or from scripture, you need to have really good sadhana. You need to have deep reflection. Be really humble. Pray to the Lord. And then you're able to analyze your intentions and motivations, If you don't have that, it's very difficult. Like, just as a mundane example. So so when me and my wife, we go out, I always like to sit with my back to the wall, and I've been doing that all my life. And one day my wife said, you always sit with your back to the wall, but you've never asked me if I want to sit with my back to the wall. And I was thinking, I said, why didn't you ever tell me that before? It was like this thing to me, like I never thought like that. And I was thinking, I never thought for one moment in those 2 years when I was getting to know her, where she wanted to sit, So I was like, my God, how can I be so selfish? So it's really hard, but you have to keep asking yourself. So that's why it's very important to see yourself as the servant, Always put other people before you, and cultivating that mindset, and then having really good side and praying today. So please let me know what my issues are. But it's being humble is easier said than done. It's very hard to be humble, but you have to really, really try. And the most powerful thing is having very good friends. Sometimes people say a good friend. A good friend is someone who tells you your issues, A sadhu means someone who cuts. He's not meant to indulge you. He's not meant to say, you keep on doing that's really good. I remember when I was young, people would do bad things. like run after girls. They'd say, yeah, that's really good, it's like you're going to get Olympic gold medal for that or something. Say something stupid like that. But a real friend will say to you, this is bad behavior. And if you have a friend like that, that really helps you keep in line. It's very hard to make progress in spiritual life without good sung. You can't make it on your own. It's not possible. Like, we read of Dharmarāja, he went in the forest by himself. He was meditating. And he was at the stage of bhava bhakti. It's one level before prema. He was by himself. And, if he had strong association, he wouldn't have fallen down. He wouldn't have got attached to a deer and come back as a deer. So we always have to be around devotees. And the whole point of being with devotees is to learn from them and get advice from them and, check our behavior. So we should, it's very hard to do it by ourselves. We always have to be around devotees. Otherwise, it's very difficult. In fact, if you analyze our life, everything in the world, we need association. Like going to the gym, anything. You need association. It's very difficult to do, But you should, there's many ways of reflecting. You can keep a diary, you can do voice notes, whatever, but association is key. You should always have in London when I was growing up, like a lot of my friends were very good at cutting. So, I'd do something and they would cut me. And I wasn't from that type of background where you cut people. Where I came from a very chilled out background. So when I came to Krishna consciousness, I felt like this is really painful for me. But then, eventually I started to realize, this is really good advice. I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't do that. So that's the type of friends you should have. Does that answer your question? Maybe some. Go Pachan Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Talking about the divine demoniac mentality.
Yes.
Now, we hear how in Satya Yuga, the demon and devotee lived on different planets.
Yes.
And Treta Yuga on different
Continent.
countries.
Yeah.
In Harpa Yuga, different in the same family.
Yeah.
And then in Kali Yuga, it's in the same body.
That's correct.
Demon and devotee in the same body. So
Yeah.
I know I can see in my own consciousness how maybe the demoniac mentality may come up. So I guess it's a battle of choosing the divine mentality over the demoniac. So if you can give us some tips and enlighten us on how we can choose, every day, choose the divine mentality.
Yeah, so for me, when I got initiated, I always, whenever I kind of struggle, when I kind of have doubts, I always remind myself of the reason why I got initiated, the reason why I came to Krishna consciousness, what's my purpose? Because if you don't have for me, if I don't have a purpose to doing something, I can't appreciate it, and I won't be inspired. And I keep reminding myself, I came to Krishna consciousness for this. This material world is not a nice place. Everything's temporary, full of suffering, and I want to go back to Krishna. I want to be happy. And then, and just going outside and seeing people suffering, that kind of really helps me to make that decision to always remain, or try my best, because, I'm not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes, but to remain true to this path, to choose the right thing, and it starts with small things, not big things. You have to start with small things, For me, it was very hard to wake up early, because I used to go sleep late, because I used to watch films too late. Then, and it's then I had to suddenly start waking up early, and then that was, and then not eating from karmi restaurants, trying to have Krishna prasadam, giving up coffee. That was a big thing for me, because I need that. That's what I used as a student. So it's little things you have to keep reminding yourself of your purpose. Why am I doing this? If I do this, will this lead to Krishna? And I remember one devotee telling me that he bought this ice cream, and as he was about to eat it, then he saw this homeless person, and he said, what would my spiritual master want me to do? And it was a hot day. He was kind of thirsty. It was like, this ice cream can refresh me, or I can give this ice cream, offer it to Krishna, and give it to this homeless person, and he'll get benefit. So he remembered his spiritual master and gave it. And it was very hard for him, but he did it, I mean, so we have to, for me, I always remind myself of my purpose, like material life is not a great thing, like, everyone says to me, because I'm in England, oh, you've moved to America, it must be so good there. I was like, it's not like how it is in the films, It's like, I've never seen like, rats running about in a nice posh area. I've seen it here. I mean, it's just a hype, it's better to be, and it's like so overwhelming being in a city because it's like a concrete jungle. Like London's not really like that. You've got lots of parks, a lot of space, and it's like very overwhelming. And I'm like, I kind of liked being back in London because things were simple, So, so we have to remember that this material world, everything here is not great. And it won't lead to happiness. And, there's been many people who've had very good karma and they've just chosen the demoniac sense gratification and they've suffered or they've been destroyed. So we should look at that and learn from people, You just need to like watch the news, you can see so many people making the wrong decisions and suffering. So remembering one's purpose is very important. That's why reading Prabhupada's books often, listening to his classes, associating with devotees, And, one thing that I find is really helpful for me to keep me intact. Like, if you want really good sadhana, you should go out and do book distribution. I remember when I did the marathon in England, I had amazing sadhana, because I knew if I don't do good sadhana, I'm going to get smashed when I'm on the streets. And that motivated me to do really good sadhana. And then that protected me and empowered me to do more books, I was doing an amazing amount of books. So, all these things are important. But I think for me, purpose is very important, why I came to this movement. I didn't come here for, because I joined a youth group, Krishna Conscious Youth Group. I didn't come to join a youth group because I already did all that youth stuff before I came. I came here because I was looking, I was really inspired by this message and I wanted to be happy. I wanted to not come back in this material world again. So, I would remind myself of that. But for some people, they have more insights, but for me, that was the most important thing. Would anyone like to share their purpose or any other questions? So, okay. I'll just say one thing. Sometimes when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I remember one of my first lectures was hearing a sannyasi, and he was saying the word breast, and I was like, how can he say that? It's full of, I was very much on the Indian bodily man platforms. Like, how can he say that in a temple? I've never heard that in a Hindu temple. But then the more the more you read about it, in Prabhupada's books, it's not just breast, but anything part of the human body. It's just mundane, material elements. There's nothing attractive about it. It's just dead matter, and you just become like desensitized to it. This is nothing. There's no pleasure in this. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And thank you very much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.